The oldest living heart doctor on record, 102 years old, was asked a simple question: "What's your secret?" He didn't mention a medicine. He didn't mention exercise. Instead, he whispered, "I eat these 9 things daily, between meals, without fail." Let's break them down. You'd think a heart doctor would preach cholesterol charts and treadmill time, but nope, this list shocked even the interviewer, and guess what? These aren't miracle superfoods. They're cheap, accessible, and hiding in plain sight. 1. Brazil nuts, the 2-nut heart hack. Most people ignore. Dr. Walters, the legendary centenarian cardiologist, had a strange ritual that caught everyone's attention. Every single day at 2:30 p.m., without fail, he'd quietly eat exactly 2 Brazil nuts. Not 3, not a handful, just 2. People would laugh at it. "What's the deal, doc? Trying to stay skinny?" He'd just smile and say, "I'm feeding my heart's guardian angel." At first, it sounds absurd. How could 2 little nuts possibly matter? But here's where it gets serious. Brazil nuts are the richest natural source of selenium on the planet, a trace mineral that's essential for human health but often dangerously overlooked. In fact, 1 Brazil nut can contain up to 90 mcg of selenium, which is more than 160% of the recommended daily value. And here's the kicker: most people in the US and Europe are deficient in selenium without even realizing it. What does selenium do? For your heart, it's a game changer. Selenium reduces C-reactive protein, CRP, a key marker of inflammation. Inflammation is the silent killer that damages your arteries, thickens your blood, and increases your risk of heart attacks and strokes. And the doctor knew this. He used to say, "Cholesterol gets blamed, but inflammation holds the gun." In a clinical trial published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, participants who ate just 1 Brazil nut a day for 3 months saw significant reductions in LDL cholesterol, improved HDL levels, and better thyroid function. But here's the part most people miss: overdosing on selenium can backfire. And that's why Dr. Walters was strict about the 2 nuts only rule. Any more than that, and you risk selenium toxicity, nausea, fatigue, even nerve damage. But at 2 per day, it's like having a built-in heart insurance policy. Plus, Brazil nuts are also packed with healthy fats, magnesium, and antioxidants like vitamin E, all known for supporting cardiovascular function. So, while most people reach for protein bars or chips between meals, Dr. Walters chose something humble, something simple: 2 nuts, every single day. And maybe, just maybe, that's one of the reasons his heart beat strong for over a century. 2. CoQ10, the spark plug. Your heart's been begging for Dr. Walters wasn't just the oldest heart doctor alive, he was a living experiment. He didn't just prescribe pills, he lived his recommendations. And one of his longest-running habits? A small soft-gel capsule taken mid-morning, every single day, coenzyme Q10, better known as CoQ10. He called it the spark plug of the heart, and the metaphor is perfect. Your heart is a muscle, a relentless, tireless one that beats over 100,000 times a day. And every one of those beats demands energy. That energy, it comes from your mitochondria, the little power plants inside your cells. And CoQ10, it's the fuel those power plants run on. Without it, your heart cells start to sputter, slow down, and, eventually, fail. Dr. Walters started taking CoQ10 in his early 60s, long before it became trendy. He'd seen something most doctors hadn't. Patients on statins, cholesterol-lowering drugs, were coming in with muscle fatigue, brain fog, and yes, heart issues. He made the connection early. Statins deplete CoQ10 levels, and the patients who didn't supplement, they aged faster, they looked tired, their hearts lost that spark. He once told a colleague, "You can lower cholesterol all you want, but if the engine's out of gas, what's the point?" Scientific studies back him up. In a meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, CoQ10 supplementation was linked to improved heart function in patients with heart failure. Another study showed that it reduced blood pressure and improved exercise capacity. But here's the twist most people miss. Not all CoQ10 is equal. There are two main forms, ubiquinone and ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the active, more absorbable form, and Dr. Walters was obsessed with quality. He used pharmaceutical-grade ubiquinol and took it with a fat-containing meal to maximize absorption. No empty stomach, no bargain bin brands. He dosed low and slow, 100 mg daily, mid-morning, never skipped. So while others were popping multivitamins blindly, Dr. Walters targeted the core of longevity, cellular energy, because a healthy heart isn't just about clean arteries, it's about having the power to keep beating. And for him, CoQ10 wasn't just a supplement, it was part of the rhythm that carried him past 100 years of life. 3. Olive oil shots, the afternoon ritual that scrubs your arteries clean. At precisely 3 p.m. every day, Dr. Walters did something that raised eyebrows, even in his own clinic. He'd stop whatever he was doing, open a small dark glass bottle, pour a tablespoon into a shot glass, tilt it back like a fine whiskey, and drink it. Extra virgin olive oil. Straight. No bread, no salad, just the oil. It seemed bizarre to onlookers, but to him, this was medicine. His words. This is liquid gold. Most people just don't know how to use it. What made him so loyal to this habit? Simple. Polyphenols, the potent antioxidants found in high-quality extra virgin olive oil. These compounds do what most heart meds can't. They clean up oxidative stress, calm arterial inflammation, and improve the elasticity of blood vessels. In short, they help keep your arteries young. He'd explain it like this. Imagine your arteries are plumbing. Over time, rust, sludge, and pressure build-up damage the pipes. Olive oil, it's the anti-rust, the internal cleaner. And the science backs it up. In a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, participants who followed a Mediterranean-style diet rich in extra virgin olive oil had a 30% lower risk of heart attack, stroke, or cardiovascular death. That's not a small difference. That's massive. But here's the part Dr. Walters understood that most people miss. How and when you take olive oil matters. Cooking with it, you lose polyphenols. Drowning it in pasta, you're cancelling the benefits with carbs. He took it raw, mid-afternoon, when blood pressure often spikes and fatigue sets in. That's when your body needs anti-inflammatory support the most. He also insisted on the right type, cold-pressed, organic, stored in a dark glass bottle. No plastic, no light exposure. If it wasn't slightly bitter and peppery on the throat, it wasn't real. 1 tablespoon a day. That's it. He believed the difference between aging and thriving came down to small, boring rituals, done consistently. And this was one of his non-negotiables. Don't wait until you're in the hospital, he once said. Your arteries are aging quietly every day. So take care of them quietly too. So if you ever catch someone shooting olive oil at 3 p.m., don't laugh. They might just know something the rest of us don't. 4. Magnesium glycinate, the calm mineral that silently saves hearts. Dr. Walters had a firm rule. If your heart skips a beat, it's probably not romance. It's magnesium. Every evening, right after dinner, he'd reach for one thing, a small capsule of magnesium glycinate, not oxide, not citrate, glycinate. And he was adamant about it. Why? Because most people are quietly starving for magnesium, and it's destroying their hearts without them even knowing it. Let's break this down. Magnesium is involved in over 300 biochemical reactions in the body, but for your heart, it's absolutely essential. It regulates heartbeat, relaxes blood vessels, balances electrolytes, and prevents dangerous spikes in blood pressure. Yet, according to national health surveys, more than 50% of people are deficient. Dr. Walters called magnesium the invisible nutrient, the one that doesn't get headlines, but keeps the whole machine running smoothly. He'd seen it firsthand. patients coming into the ER with atrial fibrillation, high blood pressure, or chest tightness, only to find out they were severely magnesium deficient. His favorite form? Magnesium glycinate. Why? It's bound to glycine, a calming amino acid, which makes it easier to absorb and gentler on the stomach. Plus, it has a unique edge. It supports deep, restorative sleep, which he believed was just as important for heart health as diet or exercise. He used to say, people spend thousands on heart pills, but ignore the one mineral that could have prevented the whole problem. Let's look at the data. In a Framingham heart study, people with higher magnesium levels had a lower risk of sudden cardiac death. Other studies show it helps regulate insulin, reduces calcification in arteries, and even improves mood and anxiety. But again, he warned, not all magnesium is created equal. Magnesium oxide, poor absorption. Magnesium citrate, great for constipation, not so much for daily heart support. Glycinate, that's the sweet spot, he said. Gentle, effective, calming. He took it at night, like clockwork. 200, 400 ml never skipped. Because to him, heart health wasn't just about pumping blood, it was about balance. And magnesium, quietly, consistently, kept the entire symphony in rhythm. So if you've been feeling stressed, fatigued, or like your heart's working overtime, you might not need more caffeine, you might just need magnesium. 5. Dark chocolate. The sweet indulgence that acts like artery medicine. Dr. Walters had a reputation, strict with his science, but soft when it came to one surprising treat, dark chocolate. But not just any chocolate. He was very specific, 80% cacao or higher, no milk, no added sugar bombs. Just 2 small squares between lunch and dinner. To most, it looked like a guilty pleasure. To him, it was vascular therapy in disguise. He'd say with a grin, chocolate is only bad when you turn it into candy, but real dark chocolate, that's heart food. And he was right. High cacao dark chocolate is packed with flavanols, powerful plant compounds that relax blood vessels, lower blood pressure, and improve blood flow, especially to the brain and heart. In fact, one landmark study in the British Medical Journal showed that people who regularly consumed high-quality dark chocolate had a 37% lower risk of heart disease and a 29% lower risk of stroke. That's not a dessert, that's a daily health decision. Dr. Walters used to explain it like this. Your arteries are like garden hoses. With age, they stiffen. Flavanols act like WD-40. They make them flexible again. But, and this was a big warning, most chocolate on the shelves is junk. He avoided anything below 80% cacao. Why? Because the lower the percentage, the higher the sugar, and sugar is public enemy number 1 for your arteries. He'd also never microwave it, melt it into milk, or eat it with meals. It was always solo mid-afternoon, when cravings hit and blood sugar dipped. That's when the brain and body are most likely to reach for junk. And his 2 squares did the trick without the crash. Another little-known fact, dark chocolate is also rich in magnesium, iron, and copper, all critical for energy and circulation. So while others reached for protein bars or granola, he enjoyed something ancient, rich, and, let's be honest, delicious. He once joked, if I ever write a diet book, I'll call it The Chocolate Protocol. In a world obsessed with cutting everything out, Dr. Walters believed in adding back the right things, especially the ones that made life enjoyable and extended it. So yes, eat your greens, but maybe don't fear the dark square, because sometimes health is bittersweet, in the best way possible. 6. Vitamin K2, the traffic cop that keeps calcium out of your arteries. Dr. Walters had a favorite analogy when it came to heart health. Calcium is like a car, it needs directions. Without a traffic cop, it crashes into the wrong place, like your arteries. That traffic cop? Vitamin K2. While most people obsess over calcium and vitamin D for strong bones, Walters knew the real risk wasn't not having enough calcium, it was calcium going to the wrong place, specifically into your arteries, where it hardens blood vessels and increases your risk of heart attack and stroke. I've seen more clogged arteries caused by misplaced calcium than high cholesterol, he once told a younger cardiologist, so every morning after his breakfast, he took a small capsule of vitamin K2, specifically MK7, the most bioavailable form, and he never took it alone. He paired it with vitamin D3, creating a powerful synergy. Here's why that matters. Vitamin D3 helps your body absorb calcium. Vitamin K2 tells that calcium where to go, straight into your bones and teeth, not your arteries. Together they form what he called the calcium control system. And the research backs him up. In a study published in the journal Thrombosis and Hemostasis, people who supplemented with vitamin K2 showed a significant reduction in arterial stiffness and slowed the progression of vascular calcification. He used to joke, "You can have bones of steel and arteries of stone. Pick one." What made K2 so important to him was how invisible its deficiency symptoms are. No pain, no fatigue, no warning, just slowly, silently, your arteries hardening, decade after decade, unless someone stops it. And since K2 is almost absent from modern Western diets, unless you're eating a lot of natto, a fermented soybean dish from Japan, supplementation was his insurance policy. He took 100-200 mcg of K2 MK7 daily, with his vitamin D3 and a bit of fat to boost absorption. Simple, consistent, effective. So if you're popping calcium and vitamin D every day thinking you're protecting your bones, here's Dr. Walter's gentle reminder. Without K2, you might just be building bone at the cost of your heart. And in the war between strength and longevity, he always chose both. 7. Pomegranate juice, the sweet shot that reverses artery damage. Dr. Walters didn't drink soda, didn't touch energy drinks, and he wasn't big on fruit smoothies either. But every single morning, before coffee, before breakfast, he poured exactly 2 ounces of pure pomegranate juice into a tiny shot glass. Then he'd sip it slowly, like it was a sacred ritual. When asked why, his response was simple: because this is one of the only things I've seen actually reverse plaque. That wasn't just opinion, it was backed by science. A study published in Clinical Nutrition showed that patients who drank just 2 ounces of pomegranate juice daily for 1 year had a 30% reduction in carotid artery plaque. That's not maintenance, that's reversal. So what makes pomegranate juice so powerful? It's loaded with punicalagins and anthocyanins, 2 rare and potent antioxidants that fight inflammation at the cellular level. They neutralize free radicals, reduce oxidative stress, and even improve nitric oxide levels, which helps your blood vessels relax and your blood flow improve. Dr. Walters believed it was one of nature's most underrated cardiovascular tonics. But, and he was very clear on this, it had to be the real stuff. No added sugar, no blends, no pomegranate-flavored garbage, just 100% cold-pressed pomegranate juice, preferably organic, with nothing but juice in the ingredients list. He also believed the dose made the medicine. Most people overdo it, drinking 8 to 12 ounces at once, turning something healthy into a sugar bomb. His method? 2 ounces. That's it. Just enough to unlock the benefits without the insulin spike. And he never drank it at night. Morning was key. He wanted the antioxidants in his bloodstream early to protect his arteries throughout the day, especially during times of stress or heavy activity. To him, pomegranate juice wasn't a beverage. It was preventive cardiology in a glass. He used to say, "People spend fortunes trying to clean out their arteries. I just drank mine clean, 1 shot at a time." So next time you're reaching for orange juice or coffee, pause and ask, what if just 2 ounces of red could keep your heart beating clean for decades longer? 8. Walnuts, the pocket-sized weapon against heart attack. Risk. Dr. Walters didn't snack like most people. No chips, no crackers, no low-fat granola bars. Instead, in the center console of his old Volvo, there was always a small mason jar. Inside, walnuts, always fresh, always raw. He called them cardiac bullets, small, dense, and lethal, but only to heart disease, and he didn't eat them by accident. It was strategy. Walnuts are one of the richest plant sources of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, a type of omega-3 fatty acid that directly supports heart health by lowering LDL, bad cholesterol, reducing inflammation, and improving artery flexibility. But here's what made Dr. Walters such a believer. He'd personally reviewed a study from the New England Journal of Medicine showing that people who ate just a handful of walnuts 5 times a week had a 38% lower risk of sudden cardiac death. He looked at that number and said, "If I could bottle that effect in a pill, I'd be rich. But nature already did it, so I just eat it." He preferred walnuts raw, never roasted in oil, never salted. Roasting at high temperatures destroys the fragile omega-3s, and salt raises blood pressure. 2 things he avoided religiously. His routine was simple, mid-morning or mid-afternoon, especially on days when he felt hungry between meals or was mentally fatigued. 3 to 5 whole walnuts, chewed slowly, that's it. And the benefits? Beyond lowering cholesterol, walnuts have been shown to improve endothelial function, the health of the thin lining inside your blood vessels. That's one of the earliest signs of heart disease, and walnuts help repair it. They're also packed with magnesium, copper, vitamin E, and polyphenols, making them one of the most complete heart-supporting foods in existence. Dr. Walters once told a young med student, "If everyone swapped their snacks for walnuts, I'd be out of a job, and I'd be happy about it." To him, every food you reach for is either building your future or breaking it down. And walnuts, they were builders, quiet protectors. A snack, yes, but also a prescription in disguise. So next time you're hungry and reaching for something processed, ask yourself, what would a 100-year-old cardiologist keep in his pocket? 9. Omega-3 fish oil, the liquid lubricant that keeps blood flowing. Like a river, of all the supplements Dr. Walters believed in, none had more of a non-negotiable tag than omega-3 fish oil. He called it his arterial lubricant, and he took it daily, even into his 100s. Not because it was trendy, not because of marketing, but because he saw the difference with his own eyes. He once said, "In my 60 years as a cardiologist, the patients who took high-quality omega-3s consistently had smoother arteries, better blood flow, and fewer clots. Period." So what's so special about omega-3s? They reduce triglycerides, lower blood pressure, prevent arrhythmias, and most importantly, they make your blood less sticky, reducing your risk of deadly clots that can trigger heart attacks and strokes. Fish oil is especially rich in 2 types of omega-3s, EPA and DHA, both of which are critical for cardiovascular health, brain function, and even mood regulation. But Dr. Walters didn't just take any fish oil. He had a strict filter. It had to be molecularly distilled to remove heavy metals like mercury and PCBs. It had to have a high EPA-DHA concentration, at least 1,000 Dawes combined, and it had to be taken with food, preferably one containing fat, for maximum absorption. Timing mattered too. He always took his dose at lunch, not breakfast. Why? Because it helped him avoid the fishy burps and allowed the body to absorb the fat-soluble nutrients alongside his midday meal. He took 1,000, 2,000 blamas daily, depending on how much oily fish he'd eaten that week. And yes, he loved sardines and wild salmon, but he knew most people weren't eating fish often enough to rely on food alone. He'd warn patients, "Your blood is either flowing like spring water or clogging like syrup. Fish oil helps keep it flowing." And the science backs it. In the GISI Prevenzione trial, patients who took omega-3s after a heart attack had a 45% lower risk of sudden cardiac death. That's massive. To Dr. Walters, fish oil wasn't optional, it was foundational, a daily dose of fluidity, flexibility, and protection. So if your heart's doing the work of a champion, maybe it deserves the fuel of one too.